Well over a year after CS2 being in existence, I've finally put into words as to why the op actually feels worse in CS2 than it did in CSGO. You're not really going to believe the reason until I show you, and it's probably not what you think it is. Today's video is made possible by Clash GG, the only place you need to go to play games and win free prizes. If you use my code 1BIRD, you get 3 free cases with absolutely no strings attached if you follow the link in the description. You can withdraw and deposit to the site with dozens of methods that you see on screen. They have so many skins for you to withdraw that I can barely scroll through a tenth of them all. Every 30 minutes on Clash, you get free gems rained onto you just for being there. They've got case battles, case opening, and games like Plinko, Double, a skin upgrader, and tiles. Use the link in the description and type in my promo code 1BIRD to get 3 free cases. Thank you to Clash for sponsoring today's video. For starters, let's get a misconception out of the way. I'm gonna do a much longer video on Peeker's advantage in the future, so be subscribed for when that comes out. So what I'm gonna do is make an auto hotkey script that mimics how a player is gonna wide swing you or how a player is gonna peek you with information. And in CSGO, you actually die faster if you pixel peep all this stuff on a 128 tick server than CS2 on a 64 tick server in real terms. And I'm looking at from when you get the first information that somebody's peeking you to when you're dead. Obviously, things are much more complicated than this, but again, I'm going to put that in a separate video. What I want you to understand about ping, Peeker's advantage, and tick rates is that the more accurate that the tick information is, the faster that you're going to die to low ping players, especially super low ping players. The lower ping that you are to a server, the more advantage that you're going to have in a situation like this one, where you're peeking somebody who's holding an angle and you swing from behind cover. The faster that you can send a piece of information to the server, the more often you'll get the kill. When you're able to be the first one to have a say in who won the fight, you're at an advantage. Now with that being said, let's look at examples as to why 128 tick would mean that you die faster. From CL tick timing print and console, we can see that the server simulation happens much faster than a single tick in CS2. Even in this deathmatch server with 2 times the number of normal players from a 5v5 game, 8 milliseconds is pretty good. Here's how long 8 milliseconds is. I'm sorry to say, but I just lied to you. That's actually 16 milliseconds. I can't show you how fast 8 milliseconds is because one frame at 60 FPS is 16 milliseconds. So again, here's how quickly the server processes every single player's position, shot angle, wall penetration, button presses, and then shoots it back out into the internet at half the speed. What I'm trying to get at is that the server simulation is going to take however long it's going to take, but it can only shoot out the information at the nearest tick timing for the server's game. This means that on a 128 tick server, it's going to be shooting data out more regularly, and thus on average more quickly than a 64 tick server. Remember, CS2 is running solely on 64 tick servers with subtick. This is the same for your client, where your update rate is tied to the server's tick rate and not your FPS. Everything in between the ticks is interpolated. From a video I did a long time ago, subtick really isn't that groundbreaking of an idea, and it's only really useful for settling disputes between who shot first inside of a tick. But if you shot one tick before an enemy and the server understands this, subtick or not, you're gonna be rewarded like you think that you should be for whatever you did. Now look at this. In this example, my friend peeks me while having 11 ping and I have 35. If I compare these 2 clips of him using the exact same button inputs with my script, in CSGO I died almost 70 milliseconds sooner on my screen than in CS2. This is because of the tick delay and ping differences. And these just so happen to be at the extremes of how long it took for information to travel in the example on the right. What you have to remember is that these ping numbers lie to you. From knowing what I know about network jitter, this number is just a moving average of the speed it takes for your packets to travel from point A to point B. The internet is a complex machine, and if we just had straight line cables from me to the server with a single run, these packets could get to the server much faster than how they do in reality. So with an unlucky fluctuation for me and a lucky fluctuation for my friend, you could have situations where you get destroyed by a Xantares peak in an unfair seeming way, or die to someone who looks like they counter-strafed with the exact same button inputs. This is where all the netcode gets super messy to test, because there's really no way to lock your inputs to the tick rate. They just get sent out at the tick rate. Again, this video isn't meant to be testing Peeker's advantage, and I'm gonna make a longer, more comprehensive video about this soon in the future. But I do think this plays some part as to why the op is harder to use in CS2. But mainly, I think that's because of 64 tick and not because of subtick. Another thing you have to remember is that players are just completely used to playing on 128 tick in CSGO. Anyone who's quote unquote good at the game was always playing 128 tick. They were not playing matchmaking servers. So now that everyone's forced to play on 64 tick, which are essentially matchmaking servers, everyone's gonna complain. So you might think that I'm yapping about this for no reason, but it comes full circle right here. I'm now gonna show you why I think the op feels worse in reality. I did a test with this auto hotkey script that has added precision, so it gets about 1 to 2 milliseconds of accuracy on each trial run that I do. I had the script reset my position to 90 degrees, And using a turn bind, I scoped and shot at the exact same time 15 times in a row. I could have done more, but you'll see why it doesn't matter in a second here. By the way, the turn binds are the exact same speed between the two games, and here's proof of that. On the left here, you see CS2's spread over time, where the bullets all appear before the sign. And yeah, I checked, the sign is only a few pixels over from CSGO to CS2. It's really not that much of a difference, it's just a few pixels. Now when I run the exact same script in CSGO on a 64-tick server, look at the spread of where my bullets land. They land much further out to the right. And then when I go on a 128-tick server, they clump more to the left. You, the viewer, are probably wondering, doesn't this mean that CS2 is more accurate? Since if you were clicking the mouse and moving your view angle at the exact same interval every single time, the game is more accurate because of subtick, right? You are correct, but think about this. Let's say your target was actually right here, where CS2 is landing the bullet. This would mean that you have to flick to the target and click right when you land on him. But in CSGO, your bullets are leaving your gun tied to the tick rate of the server and not matched by subtick. Since your bullet on average leaves your gun later than when you click, this means that you can pre-fire the shot on this person, meaning that it rewards you for clicking faster, but moving your mouse the same distance. In essence, the difference between the delay in your shot from CS2 to CSGO is about 1 to 2 frames at 120 FPS, or about 8 to 16 milliseconds, which makes total sense if we think about it. If it takes around 2 frames to go from here to here on 64-tick before your bullet leaves your gun, that's the tick delay. And the same thing for 128 tick, where it only takes about 1 frame to go from here to here on the sign. 1 tick at 128 tick is about 8 milliseconds, or about 1 frame in this recording. I feel like I'm discovering the double slit experiment or something for the first time here. It's crazy to actually see this in practice. But wait, hold on a second. We still want to kill the enemy. So what does this mean in real terms? Well, let's just take the difference in view angle from the same actions to see how much further your shot goes in CSGO when doing the same action. It takes 12 frames for me to get to this position, and 14 to get to this position. Starting from 90 view angle and moving to 7104, the difference is 18.96 degrees. At 14 frames, the view angle is 66.9, or a 23.1 degree difference. This means that for the exact same flick and click between CS2 and CSGO at 64 tick, your shot can go 82% of the way to the target if you just use your CSGO muscle memory to flick. That means that you have to physically flick faster in order to get to the target in CS2 if you're clicking at the earliest possible moment that your reaction time allows you to do. This is why people feel as if the AWP is worse in CS2. Now imagine it's not just this one example, but every single time you had to ever adjust your aim when you weren't already on the target. You have to physically be faster to move your mouse to the target in order for the game to register your shot as a kill. Where in CSGO, you could be slower to flick, but faster to click, and you would net the kill. Most of the time when you're awping, you're not going to be exactly on the target where you want to be, unless you just have great pre-aim in a certain scenario. This means it's very common to be flicking at least some distance. This is precisely why it's very hard to put into words what's exactly different or worse between the two games. Something that I think Valve should really take a look at though is quickscoping. Now I don't think that my testing is perfect here since I don't have the time to sit here for 50 hours to do 10,000 op shots or anything, but quickscoping seems to be slightly different between the games. For one, there was this Reddit post about a year ago complaining about how you couldn't quickscope properly in CS2, but his conclusion is just complete schizophrenia. You can actually quickscope faster in CS2 than in CSGO, as I couldn't get my script to quickscope with less than a 7 millisecond delay between right click and shooting in CSGO, whereas in CS2 I could do it in 2 milliseconds. But as you can see from where the shots actually land, they don't seem to line up together, and CSGO seems to be slightly more accurate than CS2. My guess to why this is that maybe it's that your right click and your left click can't be on the same tick in CSGO. I don't know if this is true or not, but that would mean that it's more accurate than CS2 because the bullet leaves your gun later. But other than that attempt at an explanation, I really have no idea what's going on here, so more to be revealed. I find this extremely interesting. I think this is why players like Monacy didn't struggle much on the transition over to CS2. Because he's a player who's so fast at flicking in CSGO that to perform this in CS2, it wasn't really a big problem for him. I wonder if people agree with me about this. If you think that I'm right, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.